Tonight, in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinox Television, the President of the Republic of Cameroon has signed a decree reducing the jail sentences of some Cameroonian prisoners. In this newscast, what remains a problem is whether the clemencies are applicable to all embezzlers of state funds. Our guest tonight attempts an explanation, and still in relation to the decree signed yesterday by the President of the Republic of Cameroon, the Defense Counsel of Michel Thierry Atangana wants his immediate release before Friday this week. Plus, we take you to the Southwest Regional Headquarters of Buea, where Mr. Biya inaugurated the reunification monument 1 day to the celebration of the historic event. Good evening to you viewers. We thank you so much for being part of us tonight. We begin right away in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. The President of the Republic of Cameroon yesterday signed a decree reducing as well as fixing jail terms of some prisoners in the country. Prisoners who were due to serve €1 in jail now have 6 months to be released. For Hansen Chanji tells us more in the following report.
The presidential decree signed Tuesday reduced jail sentences of prisoners. Some had death sentences reduced to life imprisonment, while others will have just few months to live in prison. Going by the Tuesday decree, persons who were initially slammed death sentences now have life imprisonment. Prisoners who had death sentences and whose sentences were already reduced to life imprisonment now have 25 more years in jail. Those whose life sentences have not been changed now have 20 years in prison and 20 years for alleged embezzlers who were slammed life jail terms. Also, persons who swindled state funds and were given life jail terms but have been detained for 10 or more years now have 25 more years to live in prison. The presidential decree also gave 10 years to embezzlers who have been detained for less than 10 years already. Those whose life sentences had already been reduced to a fixed term only have 3 more years in jail, 3 years remaining equally for prisoners whose life sentences had been reduced to 10 years or more. Persons who were slammed 10 years jail term and those above 5 now have 15 months. Prisoners who were given 5 years jail term and those above 3 years only have 12 more months to be freed. 8 months remaining for persons given less than 3 years jail term, but whose sentences are above 1 year. For prisoners slammed 1 year jail term, they now have just 6 months to live in prison. The presidential decree Tuesday is applicable only to prisoners already serving their fixed jail sentences, but for persons still enjoying freedom, they will have to first of all serve their jail terms. The presidential clemency is not applicable to those who are charged with attempted escape and persons sentenced for having committed crimes while in detention. Following the decree, there are high expectations that Michel Thierry Atangana and Titus Ezua will be amongst the beneficiaries.
For Hansen Chanji, they're taking a look at the presidential decree of yesterday in details. Now, the presidential clemency published yesterday has so far been hailed by members of the support committee of Michel Thierry Atangana. They told journalists in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, today that the incarcerated Franco-Cameroonian should be released before latest Friday this week. Let's have the details of that report with Roland Akon.
President Paul Biya bows to international pressure from the French and the UN, releases Michel Thierry Atangana and Titus Ezua from jail through a presidential clemency Tuesday. Defense counsels and members of the support committee of Michel Thierry Atangana all appreciated the presidential gesture.
That decree intervened when many people was not expecting it.
They are now waiting for a release order from the competent judicial authorities latest Friday for both men to quit the National Gendarmerie Detention Center, where they have been jailed since 1997 for the embezzlement of state funds.
I think that it is on Friday because the decree was yesterday. Today, I hope that today was the day for put together the application, and tomorrow is public holiday, so on Friday I think that Michel Thierry Atangana will be free.
Michel Thierry Atangana was in charge of the recovery of the deaths of 15 French companies in Cameroon. The non-recovery of such debts since his detention is estimated at 338 billion francs CFA, which his lawyers are demanding from the state of Cameroon.
That 338,000 billion is the reason of the return of Michel Thierry Atangana in jail.
The presidential clemency comes after regular condemnation by the French and of recent the UN of the abuse of rights in the detention of Michel Thierry Atangana and Titus Ejua. According to Barrister Eta Bisson Jr., the presidential clemency does not concern his client, Chief Ephraim Inoni.
Chief Inoni is not involved in this clemency because if you look at Article 1 of that decree, it says it affects people whose sentences have been final. Chief Inoni's sentence is not final yet because after the delivery of the judgment by the Special Criminal Tribunal, we filed an appeal. So once there is an appeal, the sentence cannot be said to be final.
That is Roland Akong there, ending the report. Now the question is why such a decree at the time when Cameroon is celebrating its reunification 50 years after? Those are some of the questions that our journalists sought to find out from the head of state himself in the Southwest Regional Headquarters of Buea. The President of the Republic of Cameroon today inaugurated the reunification monument that's in that part of the country. The unveiling of the historic edifice took place some hours ago. Besides the governor's office and the Prime Minister's lodge in that part of the country, journalists, as I earlier indicated, curiously wanted to know the reason for the clemency granted to prisoners yesterday by the head of state. The head of state claimed that his intent is to ensure that the socially excluded should be part of the country's reunification celebration. Activities to mark the reunification celebration proper will take place tomorrow at Bongo Square, that's still in the town of Buea. Now, ahead of the reunification celebrations and also the speech of the head of state tomorrow, February 20th, 2014, some Buea inhabitants equally spoke to our reporters, giving them their expectations ahead of the reunification celebrations tomorrow. Let's have the details of the report with Aboya-based correspondent Derek Jato.
Madame Comfort lives at Street 8, a neighborhood here in Buea. She is happy to welcome Cameroon President Paul Biya in her town, but expect Mr. Biya to address some pertinent issues. I would like President Paul Biya to create jobs and rescue street children on our street. Some are even graduates, but without jobs. To Mr. Tita Anthony, in front of his house at Campaign Street in Buea, President Paul Biya should invest in research and create industries in the region.
One of the major problems in education is unemployment of the youths. In fact, the president is coming to highlight values on how to tackle problems of unemployment and problems of education, problems of health, with the HIV AIDS, which is ravaging the world at large, and Africa, Cameroon.
Preparing for the celebration of the 50th anniversary of Cameroon reunification, the Buea population generally got engaged in keeping their surroundings clean as they look forward for Mr. President to bring a lasting solution to their numerous problems.
Even though in our environment, the roads that were scattered, they have not completed the roads, we don't have water, we are still living in difficulties, but we are happy that he came.
The Southwest people pray to hear President Paul Biya make some pronouncement, and Thursday is the D-Day.
Reaction of some inhabitants in the Buea subdivision. Now, the senior division office of the Sanaga Maritime has told the population of Idea that the reunification celebration is a great symbol of national unity between the two Cameroonian states that came together. Abate Zhang was speaking while presiding over commemorative activities ahead of the Golden Jubilee that is going to take place tomorrow in Buea. Now, let's have the details of that report with Pamela Ndukong.
The march past that took place at the prefecture, it's one of the commemorative activities of the Reunification Jubilee. The exercise saw the participation of some selected nursery schools, primary, secondary and the military base. Presiding over the ceremony, the senior divisional officer of the Senegal Maritime, Abba Tejan, reminded the population of the significance of the Reunification Jubilee and the importance of the patriotic march past, which he said symbolizes national unity between the former two Cameroon states. Few weeks to the event, administrative authorities had embarked on keeping the town clean for the celebrations. All makeshift structures along the main road were cleared. Also, sporting activities were organized, coordinated by the senior divisional officer of the Maritime Division, in which the population turned out in their numbers.
That is how the people of Edea in the Sanaga Maritime Division are preparing ahead of the country's reunification celebration, and it should be noted that it is a similar situation in all the 10 regions across the country. Now close to 1,000 candidates started the two-day bar seminar today ahead of the bar exams to take place as from the 20th of February 2014. Members of the Bar Council have, however, maintained that no extra favor would be given to candidates who participate in the seminar. Roland Akong, our Yaoundé Bureau Chief, compiled the following report.
Hundreds of candidates showed up at the Yaoundé Sports Complex to take part in the preparatory seminar for the bar exams. After the introductory lectures, we got the views of some of the candidates.
We had been reading, but we didn't really know how to focus or how to approach questions. And we were not like very confident, but with all that we had this morning, I'm sure everybody, I also came out at least with my shoulders high, you know, ready to face the exam.
I think that we have been fine-tuned, we have been refined, we've been exposed to the inside of the profession. I think presently I am kind of transformed, and I really want to thank the batonnier and all the representatives, because from what they have said, I can chest pound that I have attained mental evolution, change of thought.
It's just to really boost our morale for the exams, so that when we are sitting for the exam, at least we know the decorum, the rules that are operating in the exams.
According to Barrister Innocent Bonu, one of the representatives of the batonnier, the preparatory seminar is very useful to the candidates for the bar exams.
We are giving them hints and tips how to prepare for the exams, how to conduct themselves during the exams, how to write the exams. You know, it's going to be in two phases, the written and then the orals.
The seminar is organized by the Cameroon Bar, which is also organizing the bar exams. Does it mean that students taking part in the preparatory seminar will be favored during the exams?
Nobody is going to have an extra advantage because he came here. Nobody is going to be penalized because he didn't come. But I think those who come will learn something that they didn't know. Because, you know, every day, every time you talk to somebody, you learn something new.
Each candidate is expected to pay 35,000 francs CFA for the two-day preparatory seminar.
I'm not sure that we are here for free. They have to pay some money to rent the hall, and then the facilitators also. They will not come and speak and go away like that. Even though it was difficult to have the money, but at least it's worthwhile.
The bar exams take place Saturday, February 22 in Yaoundé.
Now, the rehabilitation works going on at the Aquanor Bonamoussadi road is said to be giving more of a nuisance to road users as well as inhabitants of the Aquanor neighborhood. Locals are complaining of the snail pace at which the work is being carried out, and also the health hazards accompanying the project on the entire population. Now, Jacques Egerkinge visited the site and now tells us that the contractors are saying that they need more time to be able to do a great job. Let's have his report.
Just 2 months gone into the 5 months duration of the rehabilitation works on the Aquanor Bonamoussadi road, the population seems not to bear with the snail speed at which the work is being carried out. The work seems to have come to a halt as just a handful of technicians can be seen throughout the day trying to place the already made culvert. The culvert, which many road users and even residents say does not meet the criteria of a well-made road.
Les rigoles qu'on est en train de faire là, ça c'est les fausses rigoles. Quand on dit qu'on fait les travaux, on doit bien faire les travaux. Parce que le gouvernement ne vote pas le budget pour aller faire les conneries en route. Quand on dit que c'est la route, c'est la route. Ce n'est pas qu'on dit que c'est une route secondaire.
They decry the fact that with the coming of the heavy rains, these gutters will not be able to canalize the much surface runoff and can also cause floods in homes. An allegation which one of the technicians working with the company charged with the rehabilitation work, who could only talk to us off camera, refused by saying the population should leave them to carry out their job and only judge them at the end of the execution. Inhabitants of the Aqua North neighborhood can no longer bear the slow nature with which the work is advancing, and they decry the many inconveniences that befall them on a daily basis.
Non, ça n'avance pas, ça n'avance totalement. Les gens se plaignent au quartier, il y a la poussière partout, et quand ils font ça, ils bloquent les routes, on ne peut plus descendre, il n'y a que les voitures qui font que sortir.
As road users and inhabitants await the completion of the rehabilitation work, they are bound to bear the untold circumstances and the everlasting traffic congestion witnessed on the Aqua North Bonamoussadi Road daily.
Jacques Kinge there taking a look at some of the day-to-day ordeals of commuters or users of the Aqua North Road. Now, still with Jacques Kinge, we take a look at agricultural output, which will soon witness an increase in melon. That's in the Mongo division of the littoral region of Cameroon. The promise was met by the Minister of Agricultural Development, Esimi Menye, as he handed over some agricultural equipment to farmers in that part of the country. Jacques Kinge tells us more.
It was on board a tractor that the Minister of Agriculture, Esimi Menye, launched the agricultural season in the town of Melong in the Mongo division. The launching ceremony took the minister to one of the biggest corporation plantations in Melong with more than 4,000 members, and also to their warehouse where bags of their recent harvest had been stored. Speaking during the ceremony, the board chair of the corporation enumerated some problems faced by the agricultural sector in this part of the country and also proposed possible solutions that could ameliorate the sector. The Minister for Agriculture also visited a coffee processing unit owned by the corporation where the aging nature of the machines have affected productivity. Minister Esimi Menye brought some encouragement to these farmers by offering them 2 tractors, a fertilizer spraying machine, and other working tools. While opening the ceremony at the Melong ceremonial ground, the mayor, Jean Kwete, enumerated problems faced by farmers in the municipalities, ranging from financial assistance, lack of fertilizers, and the abandonment of plantations. The minister told the population that he had taken note of their plight and promised the training of farmers to ameliorate the sector. Meanwhile, some 21 common initiative groups received gifts, and also the management staff of the corporation received 36 motorbikes and 4 pickups to facilitate their jobs.
A report there bringing us to the end of this segment of the news. Up next is Talking Point. Good evening to you, Barrister Roland Abeng. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Good evening. It's my pleasure, Mimi.
Should we thank you for coming. The President of the Republic of Cameroon today inaugurated the reunification monument in the southwest region of the country. It should be noted that he arrived to Boya yesterday, but before he got to Boya, he had signed a decree reducing the jail sentences of some Cameroonian prisoners, and that's what our guest tonight will be telling us about. First of all, your reaction as far as the decree is concerned.
It's a good thing that from time to time, and it's within the president's prerogatives, it's within his powers to give clemency to prisoners. Now, that's my first reaction. But the second reaction is that for the first time, we have seen so much confusion. after the president's decree. It's difficult to interpret this decree with exactitude, and at the end of the day, it's only the administration that will be able to interpret the decree. We see a situation, we are witnessing a situation where you can be sure that only one or two people can be certain that the decree applies to them. I'm talking of Cheria Tangana and Titus Ezwa. So, even for Titus Ezwa, it's not even totally clear for him, because there were aspects of influence peddling in his sense, yes.
So now, just finding out from you, you probably went through the decree that was published yesterday by the head of state. What is it all about, to be more precise?
It's clemency. I mean, as I said earlier, the president from time to time, and almost every year, he gives clemency to prisoners, to those who have been sentenced and whose sentences have become final. He gives pardon. But he has always excluded people who were condemned, who were sentenced for misappropriation. This time around, he is clear that the immediate people who, and which is, you remember that misappropriation is a felony. It can even be, people have been condemned to death sometimes for misappropriation. For the first time, we see this decree of clemency, which gives freedom to people who have served an imprisonment term of more than 10 years, of 10 years and above. Or
reduction of
their jail sentences. It's curious, and but at the end of the day, you discover, as I said earlier, that it applies maybe to very few. Very few will come out.
Who are some of these prisoners that might possibly benefit?
Yeah, possibly,
like you said.
Yeah, possibly come out. I have in mind Paul Desiré Ango, Pierre Desiré Ango, Munchipu Saidou. For Munchipu Saidou, his imprisonment term was supposed to even end, I think, this year, because he was sentenced in 1999. Titus Ezwa, and of course Cheria Tangana. Those are the people who, those are the high-profile criminals who should be getting out. Remember that the clemency doesn't mean that you remain an ex-convict. You cannot have a non-conviction certificate, but yes, you are free.
Can it possibly have an impact on those that have been rendered verdict as far as the embezzlement of state funds is concerned?
Yes, but remember that as Section 1, I have the decree here with me, it has to be applied for cases where the sentence have become final. If you are still on appeal, if you have appealed to a higher court for that same issue, then you are not concerned with this. And there are just a host of other people who are not concerned. If your crime is corruption, if influence peddling, and so on and so forth, you do not benefit from this decree.
So my worry is what the timing of the presidential decree. What might have possibly motivated the head of state to issue such a decree at this time of the year?
Two things. I would have preferred that, because listen, this is just a customized decree to remove Cheria Tangana. That's my opinion, and I would have loved the president just to come up with a decree saying that Cheria Tangana has been given clemency, instead of coming with this 3-page document that is very, very equivocal. That's very, very equivocal. That's the first thing. The timing, I think, is because of the pressure that he's been having. First thing. Well, the pressure from our support committee. We've also heard that Francois Hollande. You remember that the former ambassador made statements regard to that. Francois Hollande made statements with regards to Cheria Tangana, and so on and so forth. It's diplomatically, I think, and politically, it was high time the president reacts positively to their request. There has been so much pressure on our president with regards to the Cheria Tangana case. So you don't blame him. Then secondly, yes, it's reunification. Some other people will benefit. I'm thinking of the University of Buea students who were sent to prison. I'm thinking of so many other people. But you know, most of those who went to prison for embezzlement I'm afraid they might not be concerned with this.
So what you are saying is that Michelle Teria Tangana is released. It's going to be released.
Yes, it's going to be released pending the paperwork.
That's Michelle Teria Tangana rejoicing already and hoping that he might be released before this Friday.
There is no reason why the president should put Article 15 of that decree if it was not destined for Teria Tangana. There's no other explanation. Because before, the president will make a very clear-cut clemency decree excluding misappropriation. This time around, misappropriation is included for those given clemency. And above all, saying that if you have spent 10 years and above, you have a total clemency. Your imprisonment term is not only reduced. You can get out of prison.
You are you think that it directly targets Michelle Teria Tangana. But the head of state today in Buea had a different story. He said that it is for socially excluded or those that are feeling socially excluded to be part of the reunification celebration. Do you think that the reason of the head of state is convincing?
Your guess is as good as mine with regards to what the president said today. But I don't want to interpret it. As I said earlier, you can interpret this decree in many ways. But the people, I don't see so many people benefiting from this decree, because at the end of the decree, you have people who have been excluded from the clemency decree. Those involved in customs fraud, counterfeiting, corruption, aggravated theft, drug peddling, and so on and so forth. So there's so many crimes. If you're sentenced for these crimes, you are not included.
So it's just for a few.
So if it's just for a few. But it's a good thing. It's always a good thing that the president comes up from time to time to give clemency. So usually he does this before 20 during around the 20th May, the National Day. This time around, I think he's doing it at this period was timely. I think so.
According to you, it's some sort of a mixed blessing, a good and a bad thing, because it targets just a particular persons that have been incarcerated in the country.
What's clear is that if the intention is not to decongest our prisons, because I'm not sure up to 20%. I'm not sure up to 20% of our prisoners, of the prisoners in this country, will be affected by this. Yes. So yes, but some people the imprisonment sentences will be reduced. Some is clear. Some prisoners will get out. We don't know when they will get out because some paperwork has to be done. I heard the Teria Tangana's lawyer celebrating that he should come out on Friday. It can take weeks and even months for them to come out. But yes, there's a decree that some prisoners will benefit from.
So now, can we interpret it by saying that it's some sort of confirm what members of the opposition are saying, that the executive is above the country's judiciary?
Oh no! This is legal. This is within the president's prerogatives. The president has a right after judgment.
The decree critically targeting just a single individual, like you earlier said.
Well, it's my opinion that this decree would have been simpler if it were not targeting just one individual. That's what I said. But it is the president's powers. The president has not violated any law. He has not treated the judiciary out of spite. He has acted within his powers. When a prisoner is sentenced, it's over to the executive to do what they want to do with the prisoner. So yes, the president has the right to give clemency to any prisoner. He has the right. What I am saying is that the president has never given clemency to any prisoner that committed misappropriation. For the first time, that has happened.
That has happened, and that's no guarantee, of course, that those who have misappropriated public funds will be freed or released.
Yeah, it's no guarantee. I'm saying that not up to 1/20th of those involved in misappropriation will get out because of this. It's clear. Lots of people, there will be lots of reduction of sentences. I'm thinking of somebody like Ondongdong. I'm thinking of somebody like Edu. I see them having 10 years reduced from their sentences as per this law. But yes, I'm thinking of Fonjindam. For those whose sentences have become final, yes, but remember that they will be incapacitated because they cannot get into politics. They have already been destroyed. They cannot get into politics. It is not an amnesty. It's actually a clemency. You remain a convict, but you are free.
But you are free.
Yeah, and you remain an ex-convict, but you are free.
Made of full with a lot of intrigues, I should
yes,
say.
Yes.
The decree, of course.
I think that's the way to use
it. For being part of us tonight,
thank you,
and
welcome.
for joining us tonight on Talking Point to our viewers. We thank you so much for being part of us tonight as well. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Good evening to you once again.